what you would say to the average person who wants to stick their head in the sand and ignore all things crypto related.
A lot of institutions, a lot of government are looking into crypto.
Explain to me why I need to feel safer, certainly in the UAE, when it comes to trading crypto.
Because cryptocurrencies have been decentralized. So it cuts out the middleman, it cuts out the bank. But if you want more safety, you become a little bit more centralized. So you do it through an exchange.
And one of the accusations that gets leveled at cryptocurrency is the environmental impact of all the mining that's required.
El Salvador powers some of their Bitcoin mining from a volcano. The heat from the Bitcoin mining machine can be reused. Was using that heat to dry mangoes. Don't go for the FOMO and the meme coins. You're only going to lose.
Justin Harper, thank you very much for being here today. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
So, Crypto Radio, you are a host, a producer, and co-founder.
That's right.
I'm interested most, what was the inspiration to start the Crypto Radio?
That's a good question. And it starts with our founder, a guy called 𝐿𝐶𝐵𝐿, French guy who's a visionary, very much a crypto bro, crypto trader, investor, who was doing a lot of stuff online. He was part of these communities. So a lot of crypto is run in communities, small like Telegram groups. So he was part of a lot of these groups, and he found himself having to ask. There was a lot of questions being asked, and he was the one giving the answers, really basic questions, people trading and doing things with crypto, but asking really basic questions. So he felt there's a real knowledge gap with these people, and he wanted to sort of bring it to a wider group apart from these small little Telegram groups. So he decided a platform like the Crypto Radio would be a perfect place for him to help educate people and sort of teach them safer ways of trading and investing in crypto. So he came up with the original idea. He wanted it to be about education, but entertainment as well, because that's the thing. We'll sort of, when we hear education, we think of our school days, and it brings back bad memories. Even if you had good school days, bad memories. So we didn't want it to be pure on an education place. We wanted to make it sort of pseudo-educational and pseudo entertaining as well at the same time. And that's the balance we're trying to hit. So it's really just trying to bring crypto to the masses, because we know only a small part of the population are trading crypto. We know that's changed a little bit. Bitcoin has helped do that. So that's really, I guess, the seed of the Crypto Radio.
So it's based in Dubai?
We're based in Dubai, and we do get a lot of guests who are based here in Dubai and the UAE, but it is global. It's an internet radio. So we do have a global audience, which is why we're often on calls at 9 p.m. and, given the time difference with the US, which drives a lot of the crypto news. So it's global, based here. So,
but I'm curious, is it because Abu Dhabi is stepping onto the global stage when it comes to wanting to be a player, it seems, and we'll get into, their recent acquisition of all the BlackRock Bitcoin. But was there a strategic reason for wanting to have at least one of the shows coming out of Dubai?
Yeah, I think so, because it's a hub. There's a lot of talent here. It's becoming like digital assets and a crypto hub. So there's a lot of good people here, a lot of companies moving their headquarters and their offices here. So we knew there was good talent here as well. And I think it's one of those places, it's got a very modern feel, Dubai, and crypto's very modern, the future of money potentially as well. So it was a really good fit. And then when we look at where else we might want to go, Singapore would be an option. Bali is an option. The US, India, wherever there are hubs, we want to be there. But to start with, Dubai is a great starting point.
So with that in mind, if you are looking at trying to educate, and I'm curious what you would say to the average person who wants to stick their head in the sand and ignore all things crypto related. Why should they care?
They should care because the long-term play, the long-term game really is cryptocurrencies. And it's obviously very nascent now. Bitcoin's only been around for like 16, 17 years. It's had a few hiccups, lots of scams along the way. But I think, as you've touched upon there, a lot of institutions, a lot of governments and, very trustworthy institutions are looking into crypto and investing into crypto. So more the tide is turning towards this store of value, this trustworthy future of money, digital asset, and it's easy to use, it's quick, and comes a lot of the time with lower fees, which is a key thing compared to normal fiat currency. So I think you can stick your head in the sand for now, but every day that goes by, a new players coming on board, more banks are starting to offer crypto to their customers there. So it's sort of like it's becoming less and less a smart choice to turn your head against crypto.
So you talk about banks, and I know that the UAE central bank is going to be launching an 𝐸 coin, and that's called a stable coin because it's backed by a central bank. Is that how it works? Yes.
Yeah.
So that also seems to be part of a wider UAE strategy, which is, as I mentioned earlier, just a few days ago, it was announced that Mubadala, the Sovereign Wealth Fund, had invested $436 million in BlackRock's Bitcoin. And why do you think that move was made at this time?
I think the UAE, is quite closely aligned to the US. And we've heard of Donald Trump thinking of launching his own strategic reserve of Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies. And I think a lot of other governments, the UAE included, will be thinking, is that a smart thing to do? Because it's no longer like this speculative play. People see it really as a store of value and a hedge against inflation. And what Mubadala did, I think, a lot of people thought, wow, you've got a fairly conservative fund. Now looking at Bitcoin, maybe we need to rethink our view of Bitcoin, even individuals thinking, Bitcoin probably is much safer than it was a few years ago, much less volatile. So it was a really symbolic big move for what they did. And a lot of people have praised them, for investing in it, because I think others will follow. And of course, supply and demand, the price will probably go up, and maybe they got in at a good entry point.
So are there other government players that have invested as heavily as Abu Dhabi?
There are. Abu Dhabi, I think, when it comes to this BlackRock, it's a Bitcoin ETF. It's a fund of Bitcoin. I think they're the seventh biggest investor in that fund. There are other bigger investors. There's certain companies, like there's a company called MicroStrategy who rebranded themselves Strategy, and they are heavy buyers of Bitcoin. And other governments, the US haven't quite done it yet, but there are other governments sort of talking about investing in it. China's probably not as transparent as in what they are doing with Bitcoin, but they could well be storing Bitcoin and buying Bitcoin. The UK, and this is the interesting thing, a lot of these governments acquired Bitcoin when they got it from illicit trade, from money laundering. So they have it on their balance sheets anyway. And they're like, well, we've got it on our balance sheets. Maybe we can... we can add to it and buy some as well. I think more and more governments, a classic one is El Salvador. El Salvador stands out because they made Bitcoin legal tender, and they've been buying like 1 Bitcoin a day for like years and years and years. Individuals who we interview, they buy not 1 Bitcoin, but they buy like a store of, a part of a share of Bitcoin every month with their paycheck, which is a really great way to do it, because then you smooth out any of the peaks and troughs when you're regularly buying cryptocurrencies. You might buy it high one month, but you might buy it low another month. So a lot of people are getting into that habit because governments are doing the same thing.
So with what Abu Dhabi did recently, and because they have the Abu Dhabi Global Markets and they have M2, talk to me a little bit about how M2 fits into their crypto strategy.
I like what they're doing, as in very forward thinking. And it's good that we've got these homegrown crypto exchanges and crypto players building the ecosystem here. But you've also got within the UAE other regulators. You've got ADGM, you've got VARA in Dubai, you've got DIFC. Up in RAC, you've got RACDAO. So you've got a number of these regulators all sort of having a piece of the pie there. So it's like we could say we're very well covered when it comes to that. But I think the UAE is in a strong position given it's got all of these different regulators. Hopefully we'll start working together, because obviously the US and Trump has come out, because obviously it's a lot of America first and made in America. And he wants to be like the world leading crypto hub when it comes to companies being based there, when it comes to crypto mining. So, we need that competition. We can't have, I don't think we can have any one country dominating what is supposed to be the people's currency. That's the whole point of cryptocurrency. It's not supposed to be controlled by any one man or any one country. So it's great we've got, the UAE, Abu Dhabi and Dubai pushing the boundaries, and other markets as well, like El Salvador. Who would have thought El Salvador would be like a leading Bitcoin player? So it's really sort of opened the playing field.
So we've talked a little bit about Abu Dhabi. What is it that Dubai is doing to put themselves, aside from the crypto tower, but to put themselves in that position where they're seen as a big player on the global stage when it comes to cryptocurrencies?
Dubai has a lot of big events, and it brings in a lot of talent to come and speak to these events. So there's probably one every week, and they're all called similar names. So it gets really confusing. It's like the Global Blockchain Summit, the Global Blockchain Congress. And some people's eyes, as soon as you mention the word blockchain, their eyes glaze over. And then there's crypto this and crypto that, and Bitcoin Mino. Recently, we had Donald Trump's son, Eric, came for that was actually in Abu Dhabi. But Dubai definitely is making a name for itself as a place where people come and discuss and talk. And as you mentioned, the crypto tower, there might be a Bitcoin tower. As you know, there might be a musket tower as well. So it's just sort of trying to find its feet, doing something slightly different. Regulation is important. And that's the crazy thing, because people think when you regulate something, it puts people off. Crypto is the opposite. When you regulate something, it actually encourages people, as in like there's now guardrails. And so Dubai also wants to be, seen as a place where it's safe and forward thinking, and where you can go into a tower and set up your own crypto company.
So there's a lot of stuff there I want to unpack. So you talk about people wanting to feel safe. I think one of the reasons why people move to the UAE is to feel safe, 100%. But there's also this idea that because when they want to introduce something that's new, cryptocurrencies, and they want to make it more accessible, they also want to make it safer. So I think what the UAE is doing when it comes to cryptocurrencies, they're trying to be as transparent as possible. But you also talked about some of the scams that have been associated with crypto in the past. So why would someone now why should they feel comfortable if somebody on your radio station is speaking to you saying, explain to me why I need to feel safer, certainly in the UAE, when it comes to trading crypto? What are the safety nets that are in place so that people are going to feel like they're not being scammed?
Yeah, I think it's a really tough balancing act, because cryptocurrencies have been decentralized. So it cuts out the middleman, it cuts out the bank. So you and I can transact over the blockchain, and I can send you Bitcoin, I can send you another cryptocurrency, and there's no need for a bank. But that's based on trust between me and you. And so it's like, well, it's like getting the best of both worlds. That's decentralized. But if you want more safety, you become a little bit more centralized. So you do it through an exchange. So you've got companies like Binance and OKX and CoinMina in this region, where they're like the third party. So it's weird that it's decentralized, but people actually prefer some form of centralization to give that safety. And that's what Dubai is good at, because a lot of these companies are based here. Some are homegrown, but a lot of the big global crypto exchanges have offices, in the UAE. And that's the ironic thing. And that's what people have said about Bitcoin. Bitcoin was supposed to be peer-to-peer. Me and you lend each other money, no need for a bank. But already we've talked about governments buying it, sovereign wealth funds buying it, big institutions. It was supposed to be kind of like the people's currency. And over the years, that sort of the landscape's changed a bit.
But can't you see that the role the government would play is more of introducing, the guardrails? And maybe there's a little bit of an oversight, but not too much, because it still remains transactionable over blockchain. So the role that the government plays is more not pushing, but necessarily, okay, if this is what you're going to do, we're going to help facilitate. And maybe we'll bring it, we'll shine a light on it, be a little bit more transparent, and we'll help some of that. So it's not just people mining in their basement. It's actually bringing it into the light of day. Yes?
Yeah, absolutely. The libertarians who, think that we can exist without the government and the state, I guess if they want mass adoption, they will have to sort of, suck it up a little bit and say, look, we will need, as you mentioned, some sort of government invisible hand style, helping it along. Otherwise, it's all based on trust, and it's still an unregulated product with a very bad reputation outside of the industry, even in the industry, I guess, as well, of people just thinking it's for money laundering. It's, it's about the dark web, and it's going to take a while for us to prove that crypto is more than just that.
So before I get to Elon Musk's father and what he's going to be doing here in Dubai, I wanted to ask one more question. When it comes to the UAE, 5-10 years from now, do they want to be to crypto what Switzerland is to gold? That perception that is the hub of crypto?
Yeah, I think they do. And I think that's the way we're headed there. They're very forward thinking. We've got the physical now. We've got the digital players coming here. But the interesting thing is, even if it's the US, El Salvador, Dubai, Abu Dhabi, these hubs, Singapore, it's like online. It doesn't matter where you are in the world. It's all online. It's digital money on the internet, on the blockchain. So it doesn't really matter where you are. But I do think Dubai definitely sees an opportunity there and is moving in that direction. Like, we want to be a crypto hub. We want to be, future proof, future ready AI. And there's, a good sort of overlap between AI, crypto, technology, blockchain there. So I think it's like crypto is a good entry point. But we could be so much more. Crypto, that's the interesting thing, because the blockchain is known for cryptocurrencies, but the blockchain is the technology, and it's sort of been hijacked by crypto. But the blockchain is used by people like the Dubai police. It's used by governments when it comes to identity, and could one day replace passports. We could all have our ID on the blockchain. It's used for environmental purposes. So it's really cryptocurrency. Of course, we're the crypto radio, but it's really our job as well to say the technology that underlines it can be used for so much more than just finance and making money. So I think Dubai definitely, with its ecosystem, with its friendlier rules for companies coming in, and it's a great place to live. A lot of people want to come and move here. There's a lot of well-known influencers who are based here. A lot of crypto bros driving their Lambos around the Palm. It's attracting a lot of people in that space.
So Elon Musk's father, Elon Musk, is going to be in town, and he's launching Musket, an interesting name, a play on his surname, obviously, but also it's interesting. What is it that, from your understanding, what is it that he's here to do?
He's here, I think, to get support, get financing for Musket Tower. And it's as we mentioned before, it's like this almost digital. It's a virtual and the physical, the tower, Musket Tower, but also a token as well, a Musket token, which you can use, within the ecosystem to pay for things, to be rewarded when you're doing things within the community. And I think it already has something like 50,000 holders of the token already. So
let me interrupt you there for a second. Apologies. What's the difference between a coin and a token?
A coin is something that has its own blockchain. So Bitcoin is legitimately a coin because it has its own blockchain underneath it, whereas a token doesn't have its own blockchain. It uses someone else's blockchain. So you could launch a token off the back of Bitcoin or Ethereum or Solana. And Solana is very popular for meme coins. And this is where we talked about there's a lot of confusion within crypto because I've just called it a meme coin. It's not technically a coin, it's a meme token because it doesn't have its own blockchain. So if you have your own blockchain, you can have a coin, Bitcoin. If you don't have your own blockchain, like you own it, it's a token.
So blockchain, AI, Bitcoin, meme coin, token. What would be, are you an investor?
I have been since joining the crypto radio. So interestingly, I was taken on because I was out of that space and I wasn't a crypto bro. And we want
crypto bro, is this the terminology?
I know I've used it like 2 or 3 times, crypto bro.
I like it personally.
Yeah, but it's, it's maybe not too inclusive. So anyway, people into
But it captures the spirit.
Yeah, it does. Absolutely. Bros and girls. And so, yeah, I wasn't a crypto bro. I was taken on because the crypto radio is for beginners and the crypto curious. And sometimes the only way to really come up with content for those people is to employ a journalist who also is asking those questions. What is the blockchain? How does it work? I don't understand it. Do I have to buy just one Bitcoin? And people think Bitcoin is around, say, 97,000. Some people think, I can't afford Bitcoin because I don't have 97,000 USD. Not realizing you can buy a fraction of a Bitcoin, tiny fractions called Satoshis. So I was on a learning curve. Sorry, I've forgotten what the question was.
So
you said, do I trade?
Yes.
So I have bought a few coins and tokens just to have skin in the game. I have two sons who've sort of got caught up in the whole meme coin frenzy, who want me to buy coins, meme coins on their behalf, like with dogs on their face, dogs, frogs, animals, all sorts of things there. So I'm having to do a bit of research to try and say, look, these things are very risky. Only a small percentage of people. So yeah, I think sometimes, you got to walk the talk. So you have to. And so far, so good. Like I'm not looking to make like a quick buck. These are long term. And that's another thing that we're trying to educate people about cryptocurrencies with Bitcoin. People are buying it at 97,000 USD when perhaps it was last year 50,000. Like, that's gone up a lot. It's very expensive. But the projections are perhaps by the end of this year, and this isn't financial advice, people talking about 150,000 and potentially $1 million per coin, i.e. this is a very long-term play, because the interesting thing about Bitcoin is it has a finite supply, 21 million, and they will run out. So after that, there won't be any more.
And how many are there now?
In circulation, there's around 18, 19 million have been mined. So there's only around 2 million left to be mined. And then that's it.
So in the days after, I guess it was in the days after the inauguration of Donald Trump, we could see traditional media covering the story and how Bitcoin was going up. How much of the success of specifically Bitcoin right now is because not just Donald Trump's approach and his comments, but also because of what he has said about some of the people he wants to move into key roles in the US government who are very friendly towards cryptocurrencies.
Yeah, very friendly. People who've worked in crypto and for crypto exchanges. Look at Elon Musk, even though he's, the founder of Tesla and technology, he's also got links to cryptocurrency with Doge. And then to set up a whole department, play on words Doge in the Department of Government Efficiency is very what they call in the industry bullish, So he is very crypto friendly. And yeah, he's not just saying, I want to do this. He's bringing in people who will also want to do that as well, like a task force, a crypto task force. So yeah, definitely people are seeing, this guy is putting his kind of digital money where his mouth is, bringing in the right people to follow through on his aspirations.
And do you think that while the UAE is wanting to be obviously a big player, do you think that some of the other GCC states, specifically Saudi, will start to maybe lean into that as well?
I think so. I mean, you kind of like Donald Trump talks a lot. We know that. And, there's a lot of rhetoric there. And he makes things seem so simple. We're going to solve this just by doing this. We're going to get this person to talk to that person. We just solved a huge conflict, just like that. It's like, wow, it's amazing. And with crypto, I think people want to see, because one of the things he's talked about, and it sounds very boring, is this Bitcoin strategic reserve, building up a stockpile of Bitcoin as like you would do with gold and oil and other assets. But we're not sure if that will get done, if he's allowed to do it, with approval. And so other people want to say, well, you've talked a lot and you've got sort of these grand visions for crypto and Bitcoin. We want to see if you can get it off the ground before maybe we want to try. So I think, yes, in the GCC, we will see more people keeping close eye on specifically that crypto play from Donald Trump. And that sort of, he might make the mistakes and people can learn from it. And being the first mover maybe isn't, doesn't give you too much of an advantage in the crypto space, because it's evolving all the time. Because even like Bitcoin, people are storing Bitcoin and people might say, well, Bitcoin's old. The technology is outdated. Some people say there's faster, quicker blockchains. And so that's the thing. It's a very dynamic space to be in. And governments think long term. Sovereign wealth funds generally think long term. So that's where the symbolic thing comes in. It's like, this isn't just a fad. This is something that's here to stay.
And when you encounter people who say, no, it's not here to stay, I need something tangible in my hands, I need to be able to see something that is right there in front of me, why would those people feel any more comfortable if they are trying to trade with other people that they might not see? Like, how is it that you can set their mind at ease to make them feel that it is safe? Because as we talked a little bit about earlier, there have been a fair number of scams. And yet with blockchain, it seems like it's almost something that scams shouldn't be possible. So again, why is it that people should be putting more comfort in the fact that this is here to stay and it is trustworthy?
I think it comes down to education, people understanding how the technology works, understanding what wallets are, and these things, hot wallets and cold wallets. Cold wallets completely offline in a hard drive, and hot wallets linked to online. Just understanding the risks as well, giving your money to an exchange as well, a central exchange, and they look after it for you. They take custody for it. So you sort of understand what your level of risk is. So I think education is the key thing. And as more and more people get into cryptocurrencies, they will hopefully go onto YouTube, listen to the crypto radio, do their, it's called DYOR, do your own research and understand, rather than just go rushing in thinking, oh, I've got to get into this quickly. It's like, well, no, actually, as I was saying with Bitcoin, it could continue to keep on rising. So you don't need to rush into any of these things. So that's really the what we're saying here is people now are maybe thinking, actually, this is going to be around. I don't have to rush into this. FOMO is one thing, but also there's a lot of risk of FOMO as well, that you don't do your research and you buy or you get scammed. So I think it's really that education. People like calming down, putting the brakes on a bit, and then thinking, right, I've got opportunities now, and I will continue to have opportunities.
So you talk about the traders. Best guesses, how many traders would there be in the UAE?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't know. And I don't want to guess, really.
So I'll tell you what, in the research that I've done, I saw the number 500,000.
Right. Okay.
Does that sound believable?
It does, but we hear all sorts of figures, even like the number of coins and tokens. No one can quite sort of quantify how many coins are in operation, how many tokens there are out there. The figures vary. 500,000, definitely. I mean, we could talk about crypto adoption rates. And that's the interesting thing, is in someone like India has a really high adoption rate of crypto, people using crypto, the US, the Philippines. There's certain countries that have high adoption rates, and it's based on wallets and wallet addresses. But you could have 20 wallets, and many people do. They have all their different cryptocurrencies in different wallets. So it could be just very wealthy people with hundreds of wallets. So it doesn't necessarily mean lots of people are into crypto. It could just mean a lot of wealthy people have lots of wallets. So that 500,000 could well be true. It's growing all the time. So yeah.
Now we're talking about cryptocurrencies, but we mentioned Bitcoin an awful lot. Why is it that Bitcoin is $98,000 at the moment, and Solana, which I think is number 2, would be about 2,800? Why has Bitcoin in particular become almost synonymous with cryptocurrency? They're almost interchangeable. It's like tissue and Kleenex, right?
Yeah.
Why is that the case?
There's 2 interesting points there. Number one is it's finite. So there will only be a certain number of Bitcoin. It came along first, and it's more widely accepted as a form of payment. So I think it's really, that's how people got into it. And you have these Bitcoin maxis, people who got in it from a very early stage, and they promote it very heavily. They're Bitcoin maxis. They only invest in Bitcoin. So I think it's the fact that it came along first, and now we're seeing governments and sovereign wealth funds buying it. So it's clearly ticking the right boxes. But the interesting thing is the Bitcoin maxis who only own Bitcoin, they don't like it to be called cryptocurrency. They say this is Bitcoin and everything else is cryptocurrencies. So you have two different pools. You have Bitcoin, and then you have altcoins, alternative coins. So anything else that is not Bitcoin is called an altcoin, even if it's a big player like Solana, like Ethereum, like XRP. So that's the interesting thing within the industry. You've got the snobbish Bitcoin maxis, and then the crypto players. So yes, you're absolutely right. It's interchangeable, Bitcoin and crypto. People think Bitcoin is crypto when there's hundreds, thousands out there. But the Bitcoin lovers, they're like, oh, don't call us crypto. We're Bitcoin.
So there are so many coins out there. And one of the accusations that gets leveled at cryptocurrency is the environmental impact of all the mining that's required. Walk me through why you think that that's not something that is necessarily something to be feared.
I think because the industry are tech savvy and looking at alternative energy and trying to repair the damage from the scams and making it more trustworthy, and looking at the environmental impact. Because, a few years ago, people would say, Bitcoin mining would be equivalent of a small country's energy consumption, which probably was the case. And so I think they quickly had to address that issue. And so I think they're looking very much, because the technology plays, it's on the blockchain. So they're looking at how technology and how new forms of energy can be used. And, we mentioned El Salvador. El Salvador powers some of their Bitcoin mining from a volcano. And other countries are looking at, renewable energy and natural sources to power their Bitcoin mining. And so I think it's definitely something that the industry are aware of and are actively working on. And we hear these stories. I think the heat from the Bitcoin mining machine can be reused and repurposed. And I think I can't remember the country in Southeast Asia, was using that heat to dry mangoes. So they're coming up with inventive and innovative ways of using that energy, of creating the energy in the first place. So it's being addressed. I still think it uses a lot of energy, but it's something that we'd hope will go down.
So crypto radio is about education, and we've talked a little bit about scams, the environment. Are there other dark sides to cryptocurrency that maybe we haven't touched upon?
I mean, that's the thing. When it first came around, there was, Silk Road, and there was, being used for, for drugs and illegal products like that. And that's how it sort of first got its reputation for Bitcoin. So yes, that's where its roots lie in the dark web. And as we've said over the years, it's got a cleaner and cleaner image, but people still remember it. It's like first impressions last. So I think that will take a while for people to change people's perception of it, especially when there still are scams going on now. But it's like we said, it's new technology. People are still learning the ropes, and AI will also play a part now, because you have these things, AI agents that are autonomous, that can create tokens and market tokens and sell tokens as well. And you've got to be really careful with AI taking over crypto. So there's always a challenge on the horizon for crypto. It's a tough one, and we're not at mass adoption. And it's almost like you need a real big PR, play on crypto to try and help educate people and show, look, please, give it a second chance.
Well, that brings up a really interesting question. If you were to hire a PR agency for crypto globally, what is it that you would hope that they could do to convince your average person maybe to participate in trading, but at the very least to be a little bit more aware of it?
By using human stories. And, as from yourself, human interest, people make the best stories. And so, like Nigeria has a very high adoption rate of cryptocurrencies because they have a very volatile currency, and crypto, like stable coins, are stable, and it's a much safer way of sending money. And also, when you think about some of the international transfers companies and the fees that they charge for you to send and the other person to receive it, like almost double charging. And you say if you'd use a cryptocurrency, you would have reduced your fees by a huge amount, and you can do it within minutes. I think human interest stories, I'd tell to the PR agency, go and find people who are using it in the real world, not just people sitting with 4 screens at their desk making millions trading, buying and selling Bitcoin and other meme coins. Real world examples of how this technology, how this digital money is helping everyday people. And that I think the best stories to get the message across.
All right. And picking up from everyday people, one piece of advice that you would give to somebody today who's thinking about getting into cryptocurrencies?
Don't go rushing in. Don't go for the FOMO and the meme coins. You're only going to lose. They are very risky, very risky. Crypto's risky. It is. It has, reputation for volatility. Meme coins are the real, sort of big story of the day. There's a craze around those. And what we're worried about is that will be people's first exposure to crypto and their last, when they suddenly buy this coin and it's what they call pump and dump. It quickly goes up in price and then it falls back down and you lose all your money. And so you need to step back and say, that is not for me. Maybe a little bit of Bitcoin. And, this whole skin in the game, just buy a little bit. Understand how, like even basic questions. How do I buy it? Do I have to buy a whole coin? No, you don't have to buy a whole coin. How do I store it? And so when you actually, even if it's like $50, 200 dirhams, say, it's actually, that's the part of the education, is doing it for yourself and just keeping it and learning. And what we find is when people do that, I wouldn't say they get addicted, but they start thinking, oh, maybe I'll buy a little bit more, and this whole regular saving thing. So I think it's really just baby steps.
So, and with that baby step approach in mind, would it be the same approach with cryptocurrencies that I would use maybe with the traditional stock market, where there may be a lot of data, but I'm still going to go on instinct? Or is it better to maybe follow the trend of what's popular at the moment?
Yeah, that's a good question. So there's, this analysis paralysis, where there's too many charts, too many moving averages, and too many indexes that you follow there. See, that was my background. I was a business journalist, and I used to write about stocks and shares. And so when I came to crypto, it was trying to see how much of that knowledge could I transfer over to crypto. And crypto is almost like fast forward. It's like stocks and shares on fast forward. You never see a stock fluctuate the way that you see some cryptocurrencies. So I think it's really, yes, you've got to do your research, but now we know in this day and age, it's information overload. So you'll end up doing nothing. So Bitcoin is probably the safest cryptocurrency if you are a first timer and a novice, and the more stable of the cryptocurrencies. So I think it's really, yes, you can look at charts, yes, you can look at projections, but if you buy a little bit there and then maybe follow it and see how it does, and then you can set up virtual portfolios. You don't actually have to have too much skin in the game. You've got virtual skin in the game.
Virtual shopping on Amazon.
Yeah, it is. But that soon turns into real shopping, right?
Yes, it does. Yeah.
And so, it's really just trying it out, seeing is it something for you? Are you prepared for the fact that you might wake up the next morning and it may well have fallen 10%, but it might make it up. But it's volatile. And, this whole thing about never betting more than you can afford to lose. That's very true with cryptocurrencies. And be prepared for the volatility and the roller coaster ride, and don't panic, because a lot of people panic. Even when Bitcoin hit during Donald Trump's inauguration, hit an all-time high, and people, thought, great, it's on its way up. And then it fell like, shortly afterwards, and people were selling it. And we would talk to experts, and they're like, isn't that the worst thing? They bought it at an all-time high. It went down in price, and then they're selling it quickly. They're like, how do you stop that mentality, buying at the top and selling when it's fallen? Just hold on to it, calm down, don't panic.
Justin Harper, thank you very much for trying to educate us about cryptocurrencies. I appreciate it.
It's a pleasure. Thank you.